aka Alicorn Lion, coming at you with another episode of Alicorn Rants. Today, we're going to be talking about EVO 2020. So, I already know like a lot of people are kind of mad at this list, and some people are kind of very excited, which is understandable. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion and whatnot, and honestly, I have like very mixed feelings about this list. But let's be real. Um, the problem with this list is that there's not really any new fighting games coming out. So that's why it kind of like looks lackluster compared to like the last 2 years that we've been having. So to bring everybody up to speed, we got Under Night Ember, Smash Brothers Ultimate, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Tekken 7, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as the center stage. We got Street Fighter 5 Championship Edition, Soul Calibur 6, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus as a surprise fighter, and Samurai Showdown. So, for one, there's no Mortal Kombat, which I'm actually kind of like low key pissed at, but it's for like a bunch of reasons. And two, we for 1 year we got Marvel baby back, so we got Marvel baby. So we got Marvel vs. Capcom 2 back and stuff like that. So man, this is gonna be like an interesting like evil year though, but at the same time, it's weird. It feels very interesting and it feels lackluster. But I guess that's because like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 coming back is like the more interesting part of it, but the lackluster part of it is like everything else around it. Not saying that like all the other fighting games around it is bad though, but it's like I feel like that there's not like enough diversity in it in like this whole list in order for it to be interesting. Like especially like now that Mortal Kombat 11 isn't there anymore. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Like when you look at this particular list, here's what you look at. You have Street Fighter and Tekken as like the main fighting games. You got Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as like the hype fighting game of the year, or that particular event. You got Under Night and Dragon Ball Fighter Z as like the anime fighters. You got Soul Cal 6 as like the 3D fighter, Samurai Showdown as the as like the slow pace one. You got Grand Blue Fantasy Versus as like the one that nobody knows is going to flop or not. And then at the same time, you could tie it in with Under Night In-Birth and Dragon Ball Z Fighters too. So that's a thing as well. Then you got Smash Brothers Ultimate because of Smash Brothers, and then like there's no Mortal Kombat though. I know that's like some people's complaints though, but here's the thing about like Mortal Kombat not being there. Mortal Kombat was like a different fighter compared to everything else because when you lump up all the fighters besides like Samurai Showdown, what they all have in common is if they're like the thing that they have in common is they're either fast-paced fighters, they're very flashy, or they're both. So you got, let's see, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and they're both very fast-paced fighters. They're very flashy and all this other stuff. And then you got like Street Fighter 5 and Smash Brothers, which is more flashy than fast-paced. So you have that as well. And then of course like Tekken 7 and Soul Cal are like the 3D fighters. They're kind of like in the middle and stuff like that. But Mortal Kombat wasn't really like, I'm not going to say that it wasn't fast paced and it wasn't like flashy either. They were like kind of both though, but they added something to like what a lot of fighters didn't necessarily do. Like for one of them, it was like using like the environment as the defense and stuff like that. And then it had its own pace. It wasn't really super fast paced and it wasn't really slow at the same time. It had its own pace, which was actually pretty interesting. A lot of the combos are pretty flashy, especially if you like end them with like a fatality or anything else like that though. But honestly, what I liked about it was that Um, what I liked about it, in my honest opinion, was Mortal Kombat. It brought something a little bit. It brought something new to the table, if it makes sense. Like, I'm not going to say it's like super new and it's not like super something that you'll look at in a way, but I like the mechanics that Mortal Kombat dealt with. One of the things that I liked about it the most was the variations of each character. Like, every character had three different ways that you can play it. And it was like, the interesting thing was you didn't necessarily have to try to counterpick a character if you so happen to lose to one of the characters. You just pick the other variation. So it's like, it gives you a reason to stick to one particular character, and it gives you a reason to learn like all three variations at once, because it's like, okay, maybe this variation is a bad matchup to like this particular character. Let me just go to the other one and have like a slight more advantage, instead of being like one of those people who just, oh yeah, let's go to a whole different character. Nah, nah, nah. Like, you can still do that, don't get me wrong though, but it's like, I think the skill in Mortal Kombat is learning a character and learning all three of that character's variations. And then another thing to notice is it's the only American fighter that was in the EVO lineup. Every other fighter in the EVO lineup comes from Japan, though, but it was one of the very few that was American. You know, and I'm not saying that that's like a lot to like look forward to though, or anything else like that though, but it's something interesting to observe. You know, every other fighter that comes in this list like comes from Japan. So I'm not saying that like it's supposed to be like a whole nationality representation though, but it brings I guess what I'm trying to say is it brings something it brings diversity to the main lineup. So outside of Mortal Kombat not being there, I really wanted to make this video for Marvel's Capcom 2. And I kind of also wanted to make it towards Melee as well. Because let's be real, like, the last 3 years, we've been seeing like different fighting games that we never thought would leave the main roster or leave the main roster. We got Marvel Infinite that left the main roster in 2018. We got Melee that left the main roster in 2019. And we have now Mortal Kombat 11 that left this year. And the thing that I like about Marvel 2, I respect Marvel 2 as a fighting game. I respect it as the legacy that it brought towards the fighting game community. I respect the game itself. Like, don't get me wrong. There's like a lot of stuff that I like about it. Besides like the usual, but in my honest opinion, I'm not really happy that this game is here. I know everybody's gonna be bringing the pitchforks and all this other stuff, but like, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out, because it's not like the most interesting reason. And again, I'm not really hating on the game. I'm just not as interested in the game coming out like everybody else is. Like, personally, I would rather wait till like top 8 happens and then decide to see if I really want to watch it or not. But here's the reason why. One of the things is it's old school mechanics, and I'm not really. This isn't the main reason, but I am going to bring it up. Is the mechanics. Like, my thing is, I'm not saying that the mechanics are bad, but seeing that nowadays, and it's understandable, and this is the reason why I'm not holding it up that much, is because nowadays we got like a lot of fighting games that has like defensive mechanics and all this other stuff, and you're not just sitting there like, oh yeah, I accidentally got hit in this combo. Now I gotta put my controller down and just watch my opponent infinite me to death. I'm not necessarily doing that, or like hoping to God that this dude whips the combo somehow, or anything else like that. No, I have to add, with newer fighting games that's been coming out lately, they've been giving you like defensive mechanics. So, yeah, there are going to be those times where you just have to like sit the controller down and watch your shit get comboed to death, though. But it's not as bad as looking at it through like how Marvel vs. Capcom 2 looks at it. Honestly, that was like kind of one of the major reasons why I didn't like playing it online. Well, outside of like the whole projectile spam thing, but at the same time, it makes no sense in my honest opinion about the whole like you just have to wait till your opponent gets dead. And I know. Here's the thing: I already know some people are like, "Dude, just don't get hit," which is easier said than done. Let's be real on that. It's easier said than done. I don't like the fact that like the skill level of the game is basically if you don't know how to infinite, you can't really play the game on a competitive scale, which is one of the major reasons why I didn't necessarily like it as a competitive fighting game. I never liked Marvel 2 as a competitive fighting game. That was one of the reasons, but my other reason is there's no diversity in the game. If that makes sense. Okay, the game has what is it? It has 56 characters in the game. Why is only like not even 20 of the characters out of that whole 56 game roster is being used? I mean, you always have like let's say you always have like your Mango Sentinel Storm combos. You always got like Cyclops, uh Cable, you got um Iceman. You got them because like they're very good projectile based characters. You already know you got Iron Man because he's like one of the characters that always do like the infinite combos and stuff like that. You got Psylocke that's being like on the you got Psylocke that's being used as like an assist because you already know like she got invisible frames like in her she got an invisible startup frame when like she does her like assist and whatnot and it's like there's like a few other characters that I can like point out like that's normally used, but it's like there's not that many to be used, and it's like I already know how like a lot of people's teams are going to be like you're always going to see fucking Sentinel on the team like that's a given. You're always going to see Sentinel on the team. It's like you can have two other complete trash characters. If you have Sentinel on the team, that shit, especially as your anchor, that's just a wrap, dude. Like that makes no sense to me, man. You also got like what Bone Claw Wolverine that people kind of sort of go into with, but it's like, dude, like we have like a huge roster of characters and hardly a lot of them getting used. Oh yeah, Captain Commando. I forgot. People use Captain Commando too, but dude, we got this huge roster of characters that are never going to be used because like somebody hasn't really found pretty decent combos with them or anything else like that. I mean, I guess if I have to name a couple of more, even though even as a child, I felt like these two particular characters didn't really need to exist in the game because they felt very out of place. Gaio and Charlie. I don't know why, especially like the way they do their animations. They feel very stiff, and they don't feel like they need to exist in the game. But honestly, I would like to see like somebody use like will be a prime example of a character that nobody really uses though, but could have a possible chance of, playing against the big boys. You know what? Honestly, I would say if this character wasn't super slow, I would say that Anarchist would have been something interesting. Maybe Felicia. I don't know. Um, somebody else that's not like the typically used characters. Like if somebody could just make a roster of like three characters that nobody normally use and just wreck the shit out of everybody in the game, that would be great. Then I will be interested in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like I will be hella invested in that particular player. Especially if that player makes top 8, I would definitely be hella invested in that particular person. But my thing is this. Um, you would think that a game that existed for about 20 plus years, well, not 20 plus though, but you already know what I mean. You would think that a game that existed for 20 years, you would think that somebody would have learned like all the matchups that people normally do and all the combinations. Because like let's be real, a majority of the combinations don't really even change. That's the thing. Like a lot of combinations don't really change. And you would think that because of that, people would try to learn how to play with like somebody else or something else like that. Be like one of the two things, either the underdog or the person with the element of surprise. Be like a team that's completely different and stuff like that. But nobody's not going to do that because everybody wants to. I'm not even going to use that thing. I was about to say because everybody wants to win. I mean, like, let's be real. No matter if you go to a tournament or not, everybody wants to win regardless, though. But I'm just saying that, like, you can do something a little bit different. In a game that exists for 20 years and seeing like the exact same teams being used over and over again, it gets boring. It gets boring to look at there's no excitement to it anymore. And I understand that like some fighting games do that too though, but at the same time it's like I would like to see the other 30 plus characters that never be used in the tournament and actually have some pretty decent progress. I would love to see that. I highly doubt it would happen, but I would actually love to see that. And the reason why I also brought up Melee is because Melee is the exact same way. It's another game that's been here for almost 20 years, or probably 20 years by now. No, almost 20 years. I think it came out in 2001. Yeah, it came out in 2001. So yeah, it's a game that's been around for almost 20 years, and we always see like the exact same four characters. It's either Fox, Falco, Captain Falcon, or Marth. And there's probably like a couple of other characters that I'm not like naming at the particular moment, but it's like you see like the exact same people, the exact same characters being used all the time by like everybody in the tournament. And you see like the exact same characters, and even if you see like some other ones, like of course you have like Jigglypuff, Pikachu, you got Peach and Donkey Kong, and you got like all these other type of characters that are normally being used, but whenever you see a different character being used, it's always locked down to a certain player. Like when you think of Jigglypuff, you think of Hungry Box. When you think of like Peach, you think of Armada and all this other stuff. And it's like those characters are specifically locked down to those particular people because they're that good with them. And it's like if somebody else tries to do it, they just mention that particular person who like mastered that particular character. And it's like I don't know. You don't have. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's not enough people representing like those other particular characters. Like there's not enough people representing Jigglypuff. There's not enough people representing like Donkey Kong. There's not enough people representing like what's an offline one like Mr. Game and Watch or Mewtwo or Ness or whatever. You don't have enough people like you have people who represent those particular characters, but you don't have enough. You don't have enough to make a difference. For every 10 foxes, or no, not even 10. Let's say for every 30 foxes, you have one Ness. For every 30 Mars, you have like one Roy or whatever. I mean, honestly, it's stupid. Pikachu, heart. He's used, but he's not used enough, and that's kind of sort of and that's what made Melee like the most boring. You've seen the exact same characters being used out of like a 24 character roster when not even 1/4 of that roster is being used. Of course, that shit's gonna get boring after a while. Yeah, it's cool that you had somebody like Mazda come in with Yoshi and whatnot. It's cool that you had that, but there's nobody else trying to use Yoshi. There's nobody else trying to do the exact same thing. There ain't nobody else trying to use, like, let's say, what will be a prime example? I know you got people who use Ganondorf, and I know you got people who use Bowser. Like, you have like multiple people using, multiple players using them. But like, what would be a prime example? Um. Oh wait, I forgot. You also got a lot of people using Sheik. So I mean, that's the thing. You got some people using Link, so that's one of them. I mean, I guess Samus. I don't know, but honestly, what I'm trying to say is like you got the main four characters that is always being used, and then you have like some other character. Then you got like a bunch of other characters, and they not there's like no way they're going to be used or anything else like that. But overall, to wrap this up, because I'm mambling or whatever, bambling at this point. I don't know, but anyway, to overall sum up everything, you know, my thing is there's not enough diversity in both of these games, character wise, in order to be interested in watching it through like a live stream or watching other people play it, because at the end of the day it's a game that's been around for like all close like either 20 years or close to 20 years, and it's the same shit different day. That's all it really is. Again, you would think that a game that's been around for so long, you would think that like every single character would have been mastered in some form or fashion, but it hasn't. And that's the issue. But with that being said, my name is Alicorn Lion, aka Yuki Konita. This has been Alicorn Lion Rants.